Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming this way. I think we're live streaming. I'm going to fake it till we make it where we're going, but we're so glad you came with us tonight. We're so glad everybody on Power Faith Radio tuning in tonight to listen to the meeting live. And those of you that are watching via Torah for the Nations YouTube channel, we thank you so much for coming in that avenue. And please like, subscribe, share, comment, all the above. And if you'd like to, go over to B'nai Noach Connection with Israel, and there you will find a link to come on in and join us in the Zoom room. By the way, if you're watching tonight via B'nai Noach Connection with Israel, we thank you so much for coming in that avenue to be with us tonight. Please like, share, join that group, share it to all your social media platforms, and we'll greatly appreciate it. I would like to say that Terry and I are here, and Terry's kind of the main, he's in the captain chair. And Amuela, she's Yeoman Asher. She's taking care of all the questions and things over in the YouTube and the Facebook page, bringing them over so we can see those. And I'm kindly down in the low quarters of the ship, just making sure the engine keeps running. So that's where my position is. Terry, before we get into the Tzedakah time tonight, you want to take a few moments and greet everybody?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I want to say thank you for coming to our Wednesday night class and greet everyone in the Power Faith Radio station for joining us from all over the world. The Tour for the Nations YouTube channel. I know we've got several that joins us in from Australia, and I think sometimes Zachy from Peru is able to come in, and those who join us in the B'nai Noach Connection with Israel Facebook group. Just want to welcome all y'all here tonight. We had a break last week with the Thanksgiving holiday here in the United States. Hope everyone here that observes the day got a good belly full of turkey. And tonight we're going to probably going to do a two-part series on we're continuing in the service of God underneath the prohibition of blasphemy, and tonight we're going to look into Torah study. It's a very important lesson I'll be going through tonight, so looking forward to getting into that. Scott, are you about ready?
If I can get my mute button to work, yes, I'm ready.
All right.
All right. It's good to see everybody in the Zoom room tonight. Wendell, it's always good to see you, and Thomas and Yeoman Asher. It's always good to see you. We don't know what we do without Yeoman Asher and Karen, and I guess we'll be seeing Karen tomorrow. And Richard, it's always good to see you. Richard's my cousin from another dozen, my brother from another mother. And so it's good to have you tonight, and also Veronica Port. Karen, I got on our list, and here in a few minutes I'm going to get over to Gerald. So if you'll be prepared to just give us a little update on him here just in a few minutes. And also, Terry, I've got Amber on our list, if you'll give us a little update on her. But I'm going to start off with our birthdays tonight, and we're using our little birthday tzedakah canister tonight, our tzedakah can. And so I want to tell everybody, I read these names, a lot of them offline, off Facebook, and I can't even read C Spot Run. So if I mispronounce your name, please bear with me and just have a laugh with us about it. And I remember when I was real young in school, my last name is Helton, and everybody was calling me Holton. And finally they got it to the Hilton, and I said, well, I'll just leave it right there. We'll just stay right there. So so that's where we was on that. So okay, so Slave Low, she had a birthday. In fact, I think it's today. And Lisa Joppel, she had a birthday this week. And also Yitzhak Fisher, I think I did that one correctly because I've talked to him before. And then Michelle Powell. I got that one out. Had a birthday this week. Rabbi Pinkus Levin had a birthday this week. And then also Carolyn Dietrich had a birthday this week. So we give tzedakah in our tzedakah can for you all tonight. Now we're going to go on to our blessings. And I'm getting this tzedakah box out for this, and we thank you all that sent names in. And first one we're going to do tonight is Gerald. Where did Karen go? Did she fall out?
Yeah, I think she probably lost her connection or something there.
Okay, hopefully she'll be back just in a minute. I'm gonna save that just in case she comes back. So Terry, if you'll remind me, I'm gonna put a little circle around here because I really want her to discuss Gerald's tonight. Also, we're giving tzedakah for Sally Justice. We always give tzedakah for Sally. And we're giving tzedakah tonight for Thomas's mother, Sheila Schaus. Giving tzedakah for her tonight. And Thomas, she doing? Have you talked to her? I meant to ask you today. How's she doing?
I actually talked to her just a little bit ago, and she's a little chipper.
Okay.
She's not liking the snow, but
Well,
but she is feeling a little better, she says.
okay, good deal, good deal. Thomas, while we're on you, we're giving tzedakah for you tonight. We always, somebody, Amuela, always sends tzedakah in for you, honey. Just to remember, this is your dollar. This is your dollar we're giving in the tzedakah tonight. Thank you so much. Veronica Port, I heard her say when on our little talk earlier that she's going in to remove some cataracts. Is that what you said, Veronica? You're having some cataract thing done?
Well, just right now it's going to just be an evaluation, but yeah, probably.
Okay, so we're giving tzedakah for you tonight, Veronica.
Thank you.
And we're giving tzedakah for Amber Hayes. Terry, can you give us an update on Amber?
She's doing really well. Back at work, everything's healing good. Good reports from her doctors on her thyroid surgery. They believe they've removed all the cancer from it. One good note was that one of the gals that she's really close with had this same thing happen, but Amber did not know about it. And so she told her to go back and look at some of her pictures from a couple of years ago, and she's seen she had the same scar that she's got. Anyhow, she has hooked her up with some women. There is a support group for some women who's gone through thyroid cancer, and she's hooked them up with them, and she's getting to know some people, and everybody sharing their stories and what they've gone through. So, but she's doing good.
Good deal, good deal. We're giving tzedakah for her tonight. And also, Richard Helton, we're giving tzedakah for you tonight. So we're looking for good things to come from that. We love you, Richard. I just want to tell you that. And also, Fred Rawls had probably the COVID test. Is that what you had? But they're not going to tell you till tomorrow. But we're giving tzedakah for you tonight, Fred.
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Thank you so much for coming and being with us. Have you lost some work because of this infection?
No, actually, it was after I took my daughter back to Wichita that I've had it since about last Friday night. I came down when I took her out to Wichita, and then I made it back finally. There's medication and prayer, but I went to work, but I had to take a flu shot because I work at the VA.
Yeah.
So I had to ask them, well, I'm taking an antibiotic. Is that going to interfere with the flu shot? And they said, well, what's going on with that? So they said, you got to go get swabbed.
So, okay.
I got swabbed today, and, with the VA, it's like get it today and wait tomorrow. So, but I can't go back until they get a test result.
All right. We're looking for a negative reaction. Negative.
Yeah, and healing from this sinus infection. That's what's really eating me up.
Okay. Thomas just got over that. So we're looking for your complete healing, Fred. Looking for your complete healing. And Karen, we're glad you made it back. Thank you so much. So, and I set this dollar over here aside so you could give us an update on Gerald. Can you give us an update?
Yes. So they still have not woke him up. And they turned the vent down to 30%. His vitals are really good. He doesn't have a fever. They said his heart rate was slightly elevated. So just have to wait and see what's going on.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're giving Sadaka for Gerald Cofield. Did I pronounce that last name correct?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank everybody.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay. I want to tell that. Oh, wait a minute. I got some more. I about didn't turn my page. Thank you. Okay. I have a special Sadaka to give tonight. I've got some blessed memory Sadakas tonight, but I have one I'm going to try to tell you about tonight that, and I'm hoping I don't get too emotional on it. But yesterday, my daughter heard of a tragic accident of someone that she works with, and it's the grandson of Joy Kaplinger. 4-year-old little boy fell in front of his mother's car. And so we're giving Sadaka and blessed memory of him. And we'll have more details next time. We're going to try to do something for them. But that's an unexpected thing. So we're giving Sadaka for them tonight, and for the little boy, and for strength for the family. Also, we're giving Sadaka tonight for Catherine Wilhoit. Blessed memory Sadaka for her tonight. If I can get this in here. Also, Roger Roberts. We're giving blessed memory Sadaka for him tonight. And then another one. This is a gentleman that I'd been talking to for a few months now. A local minister, Gerald Stillwell, and we're giving Sadaka a blessed memory for him tonight. Listen, I know this time of year, everybody gets in this. I hope it's okay to say, Terry, but I'm going to say it. It's going to get me in trouble. It's not the first time, Amuel, I've ever been in trouble, and it's probably not going to be the last. I know it. Everybody starts looking. I don't want to give to religious. I want to give Sadaka, but this time of year is the time of the year that you can help families. Thomas and I talk about this all the time. If a family's in need, if you see someone in need, there's two conversations that should never come up: your political affiliation or your religious affiliation. When you're helping somebody, help them because the Creator gave you the ability to help them and to bless them. And when they thank you, let them know where that came from, that the Creator put it in your hands to bring to them and to give it to them. I always say, if you change your community today, your community will impact the world tomorrow. Baruch Hashem. Terry, are you ready tonight?
Oh, I hope so. All righty. As I said before, we're going to put the title of this one tonight is Torah Study Part 1. And
Terry, I
yes.
apologize. Are you recording?
No, I forgot.
Okay.
Hold
and
on.
that may be why Veronica put her hand up. But I just now looked over to the chat and I saw that she was saying recording.
Hold on, let me.
We got time.
Y'all gonna hear it, so
that's okay. All right. Now we are recording.
Now we're
Thank
recording.
You so much,
and
Terry.
actually, before we get started, Karen did put something here in the chat. She said, not sure if it came through a while ago. Said they have a new great granddaughter on Monday, and she missed Sunday night because one granddaughter made a cake for her birthday. So happy birthday, Karen.
Oh, Karen, was it your birthday?
Yes, but I didn't want to tell the whole world.
Well, I'm sorry. The whole world knows now.
So now,
I'm-
in all the languages of the humanity, let's sing happy birthday to, no, I'm not going to do that to her.
Hey, I had one granddaughter made me a cake. She's so sweet. Bless her heart.
That's
She
all
made
right.
a lemon cake and it fell all to pieces. It was cracked, and then she put balloons on it. And I told her, I said, "It's so pretty. It's perfect. It looks like a circus tent." But
Those are the best tasting cakes, aren't they?
and that's what I told her. She's so sweet. But Laura made me the cake, and then I got to thinking about it today, and I said, well, technically, not necessarily in the Hebrew calendar, but my great granddaughter, I had hoped she would be born on my birthday, but I was born after sunset on the 28th, and she was born the next morning.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so I got 2 gifts that day.
Okay.
you
Well,
go.
listen, we're going to give Sadaka for your new grandbaby and also giving Sadaka for your birthday, Karen. You got to let us know about this. Now,
Yes.
real quick, I'm sorry, Terry, real
No,
quick.
go right ahead.
Karen, are we going to see you tomorrow?
Yeah. Yes. Hashem
Great.
willing. We're going to see you.
You and Harold, we're looking forward to seeing y'all.
Yes. Looking forward to seeing you all too.
All right. All right. Okay, Terry. Now, I think Richard said Mazel Tov for the grandbaby and happy birthday. So, all right. Okay, Terry.
All right. As I was saying, tonight we're going to look into some aspects of Torah study. When we began the study of the Noahide laws, one of the things that I brought out is through the study of and observance of the Noahide laws, this is how we get to know the Creator. And I wanted to start with this passage right here out of Jeremiah chapter 9:23, chapter 9, verse 23 of Jeremiah. It says, let him who glories glory in this, that he understands and knows me. Now, this first part of the discussion on Torah study is got some, going to have some very hard to swallow pills. There's some things that, unless you've studied and in the Torah and in the Torah arena with the Jewish people, most people will not have heard of some of the things I'm going to bring out tonight. And it can be very difficult in some of the areas. I just ask you to bear with me and just listen, because this is a very important issue. What I'm bringing up tonight is it will impact everything that you will do as far as studying the Torah and the Hebrew scriptures from this night forward. It's that important. And I needed to start with this because this is part of Torah study is part of, and it's a sub commandment or obligation, more or less, not a commandment, but a sub obligation for under the blasphemy, prohibition of blasphemy, under the service of the Creator. As the prophet said here, he who glories in this, that he understands and knows me. He doesn't say he who believes. See, belief, you can have false beliefs. Many of us have and still have. And belief does not denote knowing the Creator. To know the Creator, you have to know what he says and do what he says. If you don't do that, then you do not know the Creator. And I know people, and myself in my past, run around, yeah, I know God, because I have belief. But belief, he doesn't say here, glory in that you believe in me. He says, glory that you understand and know me. And knowledge of the Creator goes beyond belief. Even Psalms chapter 2 talks about how to gain the knowledge of God, and it takes work. You just can't you can't just, fold your hands and say, I believe in God, and you know him. You won't know him until you know what he has said and what he expects. And when you begin to live that life, then you'll begin. None of us will ever know the Creator in totality in 100 lifetimes. He's an eternity ahead of us. But we know him through, like I said, when we began the studying of the Noahide laws, and we're going to look even more into that here in just a few minutes. But to know him is to know his will, and his will can only be found within his expectations for us. That's where we find out how to know him, is to know his expectations for us. In the very first part of the Torah study, this is where we have to, this may be some new knowledge to people, because especially in the Western world, especially in the United States, where we use our liberties a little too far. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have liberties, but sometimes we take them too far in thinking that what we believe it's the truth, it's the end, it's everything. Because I have had discussions with people, and we'd be discussing things. It might be, say, a term, and a biblical term, and I'll bring the Hebrew up, and I'll share, this is the Hebrew word that the English comes from, but your English understanding is not in line with the biblical knowledge and understanding of that word. And I've shared that, and I'll share exactly what it is. Well, I don't believe that. Okay, so you're going to reject the very biblical definition of a specific thing that God has said. You're going to reject that and just go, well, that's not what I believe. I've been told that multiple times, as if belief is everything. It answers everything. They don't have any room for learning, and we all have room for learning, because belief does not capstone your knowledge. It's just a part of who you are. But once your knowledge it grows, your belief will even change, and it will grow, and it will modify and grow closer into reality of what God has said. You can go from belief into trust, because trust, once you start getting into the trusting the Creator, you trust him through the knowledge that you have of him. You really you can't even fully trust him as long as you're walking in belief. Because as long as you're walking in belief, you can have doubt and disbelief. But trust, there is no doubt. And to have full trust, you have to have knowledge. The sages of Israel, and we're going to read from the scripture here in a second, says that the Torah as a whole, in its completeness, and what that means is the first element of Torah is the 5 books, Genesis through Deuteronomy, that was given to Moses from God. But that's not the whole Torah. Torah just means instructions. There's the written, which is the written Torah. Then there is the oral, that were the Creator told Moses what everything meant, and that wasn't written down. It was handed all to Moses, and Moses gave all of this to Israel. And even there's more to the Torah than just that. It's very deep, but we don't have to go that deep. It's not our responsibility. We're going to see that. But the whole Torah is an inheritance from God to the Jews, or the Israel nation, alone. It is their inheritance. We're going to start with Psalms to show you this. This is a biblical Torah principle that the Torah is the inheritance of Israel, not you and I. We're going to understand what this is. And you have to understand this to grow in your Torah study, because this is your biggest guideline in studying Torah, is to know that it is the inheritance of Israel. Psalms, and I've said this hundreds of times, but Psalms 147. Amuel has probably got that button on her computer wore out by now. Psalms 147, 19 and 20. It says, he proclaims his words to Jacob, his statutes and his judgments to Israel. He has not done so for any nation, and his judgments they have not known. Psalms 147, 19 and 20. He proclaims his word to Jacob and his statutes and his judgments to Israel. And there's even studying that passage out, knowing what the statutes and what's the judgments and what's his word and all of that in the Hebrew even is in depth, but understand it was given to Jacob, and which is Israel. Deuteronomy 33. I'm going to go forward a little bit and then come back. This is actually where it states it in here. This is in part of the blessing that Moses gave Israel before his death. Deuteronomy 33 and verse 4. And it says that the Torah that Moses commanded us, this is the inheritance of the community of Jacob. This is the inheritance. God brought it down, gave it to Moses, and Moses gave it to Jacob, gave it to Israel as an inheritance. Not anyone else in the world, only Israel is given the inheritance of the written and the oral message from God on Mount Sinai. What's beautiful, Rabbi Hirsch says this about the heritage. The Torah is real heritage. It is the real heritage. The Torah is the heritage of Israel, not the land and its bounty, but the Torah, the instructions of the Creator, is the national heritage of Israel. The land and the power are only conditional consequences of this heritage. He goes in another place, he shows that this heritage is not to the individual. It's to the community of Jacob. An individual will pass away, but the community is said to live on forever. That the Torah is given to the community to carry it through every generation, in which that's what they've done for the past 3,400 years. Now, this is very powerful here. Deuteronomy 33, verse 2. Actually, I'll just start in verse 1 here. If we want to do 1 and 2, Amuela, you can put that down. Deuteronomy 33, 1 and 2, verses 1 and 2. And this is the blessing which Moses, the man of God, blessed the children of Israel before his death. He said, God entered from Sinai and had already shown forth to them from Seir. He had dawned upon them from Mount Paran, and then came from the myriads of with the holy ones, with his angels. From his right hand, there was for them a fire that became the law, became the Torah. That word, fire become law, is two words made into one in the Hebrew. It is H dot. It's H dot. It says these two words are written as one to form one concept. The dot occurs only here and defines the concept of Torah, where the Aish is the force that generates the movement, the change, and the life of all physical creation. Aish is also the Hebrew word for fire. And dot is also the Hebrew word for knowledge. So you have a fiery knowledge, which is the Torah. Rabbi Hirsch goes on and says, this law governs man, the creatures called upon to exercise the moral freedom. However, it does not operate within him without his knowledge and without his will. It comes to him so that he may accept it in the freedom of his mind and his will, meaning the Torah is not forced on mankind. Torah is not forced on us. You have to accept it. This law is the Torah. The Torah is nothing but God's law addressed to man, which in all other creatures operate automatically. When man fulfills the Torah, he does and consciously and free. When he does consciously and freely, what other creatures do unconsciously, man does freely. The Torah, the Ish dot, is the fire that is in God's hand transformed into law, into instructions. I'm going to be bringing that back up here in a few minutes, but I want you to understand that it says that he came in his hand. It says in his right hand was for them a fire become law. That's the way it's translated in English, but it's H dot, a fiery knowledge, a fire of knowledge, however you want to put it. It's a fire in his hand, and that fire was the Torah that became law. And as I said, this was Israel's inheritance. This is how important it is between us and them. It says, now this gets to the point of interpretation. A lot of people say, well, I can interpret however I want to. We don't have the permission to do that. It's not our property. The Torah is not the property of the nations. And to do with it the way it has been done is actually a form of theft. You may have not have known you were stealing, and same thing with me. I never known that I was stealing in the past, but I was. When I got up and I interpreted how I wanted to according to my religious thoughts, I didn't have permission to do that. Rabbi Cowan puts it this way: the ability to interpret and to make new applications of the divine law is only accessed within the tradition of the commentary as a whole, which comes down with the written law from Sinai. It has been given only to those who receive the whole law of the revelation at Sinai. Israel's the one who received it. Humanity is connected with the transcendent divine teachings, but at the same time is directed to the custodians of the tradition. Now within the Torah scholars and teachers, they use the word tradition as a lot different than what we use it for, because it's a tradition the way it's come down as a chain from Mount Sinai. Scott, any questions before I go on to the next level? I just wanted to bring forth to make know that the Torah belongs to Israel, not us.
Yeah, I think Fred had something to say, and I got
I,
something to read.
I was fixing to try to type it in there, but it's quicker to just ask it. So using what you just said, so let me put that into context, because I don't want to use Old Testament. So when there's all these Bible colleges, for example, who teach the Bible, old, new, whatever it is. So basically, anyone outside of the rabbis who's teaching the Torah is really in violation of the Torah, because they're teaching it from, I mean, I guess if they took a direct translation like you was talking, like if you go from the Hebrew to the English, the closest you can, like a rabbi would teach you, versus what they're getting out of the university that they don't even know heck what it's even saying. And then they teach it to people, and they make all these people to believe this. Then we can see that they're really in violation of, really, they can claim ignorance if they want to, but they're trying their best to get people to understand what they believe in a Christian form of doctrine from the Torah, and you see what's happened. So,
Right, and that's the reason why when you get into some of the language we read as you study, that you'll come across the language. It's and I'm going to just say it in the Hebrew, it's forbidden for the goy to study the Torah. And in the Torah scholars, goy just means nation, but in its how do I want to put it? Amongst the Torah scholars, the word goy is used for those that are pretty much from idolatry and from the nations that doesn't know. And here's the reason why it's forbidden, because they will interpret it wrong and create religions and doctrines based on their imagination. And so therefore it's a mishandling. But here's the also, I don't want anybody to think about that, oh no, I'm so bad and guilty, because we've all been here. We've been raised in this stuff and we had no knowledge of it because nobody shared it with us. But once you learn and once you grow and understand, that's when you start making your changes. You start making, and we'll be getting into the next level of underneath the prohibition of blasphemy is repentance. We'll be getting into that after Torah study. But as we can look, when we learn these things, that this is the inheritance of Israel, and it's not the inheritance of the nations, we can see that the nations, they took what was Israel's and applied it for themselves. And it's made a real bad mess, regardless of who it is in the Western and Eastern cultures outside of Israel. It's made a mess in the world. Some of the biggest wars fought on the planet has been over the religions that misunderstood certain passages, and it's what caused the problems. They thought this is what it says. I'm just going to give you an example. I can't tell you how many times in movies you'll see it and hear this quoted and they ain't got a clue what it says, but they have misinterpreted, misused it, and used it to.
And I think that's especially comes from like the Hebrew roots group. You know, they say they understand the scripture, like the Bill Clouds and the Jim Staley's and all these guys that studied Hebrew and all that stuff. But they always seem to find Yeshua and all that stuff, even though they say they know how to read Hebrew. Well,
I'm just going to give you just a point blank example of because we were not given the Torah, we don't have the correct interpretation. An eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. There's been, it's quoted all the time for revenge. And that has nothing to do with that. They don't know the tradition nor the culture from where it came and what the Creator meant when he said it, because it wasn't our culture. We've taken it and it's been mishandled among a lot of things. And so we have to go back to the custodians of the Torah to get the interpretation. That's what I was just reading. We have to go back to the custodians and let them tell us what it says and what it means. We're not even permitted, even after we study the Torah and we get to know the Torah, we're not permitted to give our own interpretations. Again, because it's, even though we have a share, and I'm going to show you that here, even though we have a share in it for the nations, it's not our property. It was given to Israel at Mount Sinai. It's just there was a group that stole it, and they turned around, made some religion out of it, and done some other things with it, but they stole it. They got a monument in their cities showing off everything that they stole.
Yeah.
And so we have to look at it and just humbly come before God. And, sometimes you just gotta let them know, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And it's why it says that he will teach us his ways and we'll walk in his paths. When we read Isaiah chapter 2, and it says the peoples, the nations will come to Jerusalem. Well, if they already knew his way, there would be no need to come into Jerusalem. So it's apparent that the myriads and the thousands and the millions that will be flocking into Jerusalem at that time did not know his way. So they could walk in his paths. I mean, there's a lot of proof there that the nations doesn't know the way. As a whole, I'm talking about the nations as a whole. There's individuals that do find the way. They do recognize that, they start recognizing that there is a priesthood. They're given the word, and we need to go and learn it and go do what our share is.
Terry, can I read something real quick?
Go ahead.
I just want to read this to you. You mentioned this earlier, and it's in Proverbs 28:9. He that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, which is Torah, even his prayer is an abomination.
Right.
So I don't want you brought that up earlier, and I just waited for the break to get that in. So I know you got more to go.
Well, let's look at that. Let's look at that. How many here, not knowing the Torah, has had answered prayers?
Oh yeah.
We all have.
Yeah.
So who is this that turns their ear? Those who have learned it and yet reject it.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a very good point.
We are all the children of the Creator. He is not a drill sergeant over us. But like any child that learns something and then decides to not do it and do their way, then they're corrected. But a child that doesn't have the knowledge to do something, you don't correct the child that's made a mistake and didn't know they made a mistake. You correct the child who knew better. Rabbi Herky in his book, Brit Shalom, which is the covenant of peace, based on Genesis chapter 9. In Genesis 9, 8 and 9, and you can type that one in, Genesis 9, 8 and 9, it says, and God said to Noah and to his sons with him, hold on. And God said to Noah and his sons with him, saying, And I, behold, am setting up my covenant with you and with your seed after you. This is what the Brit Shalom is named after. It's the covenant, the covenant of peace, and is that there is a covenant with all humanity. But he put in front of this is, what is a Noahide? That is a modern term. That is a modern term. It's a modern term taken off of a biblical term called B'nai Noah. Now, that is a biblical term. I'll show you right in the Hebrew, in Genesis and other places. B'nai Noah, the sons or the family of Noah. That's all that is. Today, in English, we just say Noahide. But Noahide has multiple meanings. Noahide is every human being, because every human is a product of one of the sons of Noah. But just as the rabbinic writings and the Torah scholars and the Torah teachers, as they grow, they have to use terms to represent the same people that are at different levels. And so a Noahide today not only represents that it is the son of Noah in its technical aspect, but it's those who's chosen the Torah that they're responsible for, to study it, accept it, and live it. Make sure I don't jump ahead right here. As we said before, the term tradition has a total different meaning than what most Westerners think of tradition. And like I said, in Israel, the word tradition means the way things have always been done. And when we're talking about Torah, it's the way it has been studied, the way it has been handed down, is a tradition for 3,400 years, an unbroken chain. So within that tradition, in the Jewish tradition, holds that the Creator has sealed a covenant with the human beings, which primarily includes the 7 commandments known as today the Noahide laws. And we discussed this in a few weeks back. If you want to look at when we were talking about the message of the rainbow, these laws are part of that message in Genesis chapter 9. Why was there a flood if there was no rules? As I explained, it says that the Creator says, I'm going to destroy the earth because it had become corrupt. And the Torah scholars told us that the word corrupt there, in the usage of it there, meant immorality and idolatry. Then it says that the earth was full of robbery and violence, which is the word Hamas in the Hebrew. And it's the real big reason why the flood was there. The flood didn't happen just over immorality and idolatry. That's bad, but it wasn't at the level. Well, I'm just going to say it wasn't at flood stage level. Flood stage level was Hamas, robbery, and violence. When it got that high, when the robbery and the violence, or I love the way the Ramban, the Rabbi Nachmanides, puts it, he interprets it as injustice. When injustice got to a certain level, the rain began. And so these Noahide laws, which is part of the covenant, Genesis chapter 9, there were 6 that was passed down from Adam to Noah that we discussed. And a 7th one was given to Noah afterwards, Devarim Chai, permission to eat meat, but not to eat meat taken from a living animal. Says every person has an obligation to accept the binding validity of these commandments, the 7 commandments that were commanded to the descendants of Noah. Okay, as I said, we go to the custodians. The Torah is not ours, but there are aspects of the Torah that pertains to us. This is what the custodians teach us. The descendants of Noah, which they are as well, but they were taken and separated and made into a priestly nation. And they were given actually more duties to do as priests that we're not required to do. There are things that are commanded to them that are not commanded to us. And when we don't do them, it's not a sin. It is a sin for them. But they are commanded to observe the 7 laws, just as we are. But theirs goes more in depth than we have to, because we have to settle the nations of the world. There's aspects of the Torah given to Israel that cannot be observed in different places in the world. As Rabbi Singer puts it, he was a chief rabbi over in Indonesia for years and over in the islands. And there's places on those islands you can't eat kosher. There's nothing kosher to eat for a Jew. But for a non-Jew, you can eat whatever there is. Genesis chapter 9. The Creator tells Noah, says, whatever moves upon the earth shall be food for you. But with Israel, God restricted it more because they were in a different position. They were priests, and we're not priests. And we're not given to be the custodians of the Torah. But we are given to be the custodians over how we treat each other. And that's the big part of our laws. 2 of them is deals with God, idolatry and blasphemy that we've been going through. Then you got forbidden sexual relations. You've got theft, murder. That goes on, and ever mean high, not to eat the meat taken from a living animal, the setting up of courts of justice. All of those requires person-to-person relationship. And these are our responsibilities in settling the earth, that we will have a peaceful and harmony societies. And if we look at what's going on in the world today, you can see that the nations of the world has rejected the Torah of God. Just like I was listening to a lesson today, or not today, but yesterday. And this Torah teacher from Israel was teaching about some certain aspects of the 7 laws. And he was showing, and if we look at it, just in the United States alone, we permit murder. We permit forbidden sexual relations. We permit, and you go right down the line. The things that we permit even within our legal code. So it goes on to show that we are not a godly nation, which many of the nations, pretty much all the nations, are not godly. None of them have. They'll do aspects of the laws, but they don't live the laws the way God wants us to live. Or if we did, there wouldn't be wars, there wouldn't be greed, there wouldn't be hunger. There would be no hunger on the planet if we observed the 7 laws as a nation. Because we would do part of the opposite of the prohibition of theft is giving life, or even murder. The prohibition of murder is giving life, giving. We'd be giving food, we'll be giving life to those who struggle to get it. Now, covenant, I wanted to share as I bring this toward an end so we can have some time for questions, is I read a really interesting description of covenant by Lord Rabbi Sykes of blessed memory. He passed away a year ago. This is actually from the last book that he wrote before he passed away. I believe he had cancer. I can't remember. I think he had cancer, but in this book on morality that he wrote, he's talking in the chapter on family. He talks about the difference between contracts and covenants. And I want to read this in conjunction with I am setting up my covenant with you and your seed after you, Genesis chapter 9. Rabbi Sachs goes on, he says, in a contract, two or more individuals, each pursuing their own interest, come together and make an exchange for mutual benefit. In a contract, two or more individuals pursuing their own interest come together and make an exchange of mutual benefits. A covenant is something different. In a covenant, two or more individuals, each respecting the dignity and integrity of the other, come together in a bond of love and trust to share their interest, sometimes even to share their lives by pledging their faithfulness to one another, to do together what neither could achieve alone. A contract is a transaction. A covenant is a relationship. A contract is about interest, whereas a covenant is about identity. It is about you and me coming together to form an us. That is why contracts benefit, but covenants transform. So I wanted us to think about this. God said, I'm setting up my covenant. It's not a contract. The Torah that is tied to the covenant, his promises of not flooding the earth again because of man's misconduct. The covenant is about a relationship with God. God wanted a relationship with man. And as I read that, where he talks about one respects the dignity and the integrity of the other. If we look at this, do we let that be one-sided? You know, a lot of us in a religious, mindset, well, we look at God, about the dignity and the integrity of God. But what about God, his part of the covenant, looking at man with the same ideas? That he looks at man and with dignity and integrity and says, I will not flood the earth again. Instead of just being man here and God there, so to speak, we become an us with God. God wants to be, he doesn't want I God, and man doesn't need to be I man. Right here in Genesis chapter 9, when he says, I'm setting up my covenant, he is saying, I want to be an us with man. I want to be in a relationship with man. In that relationship, God's not going to flood the earth because of our evil ways anymore. But the reason why the flood came to begin with is because man was violating the 6 commandments that God had given Adam. And they're not listed like they are at Mount Sinai for Israel. It's totally different. Even the Torah sages says that there's a few that's actually point blank stated, like murder, and like the not eating meat from a living animal. But the others comes with the relationship that's between God and man. And that comes back to the covenant. And this, again, is how we get to know the Creator. How do we know the Creator? How do we know God in this covenant? We study his Torah. We accept it upon ourselves. And we study it, and we go and we live it. We live it in every aspect of our life, down to the smallest details. And we allow, when we find ourselves violating, we all do, then we go to the Father, We make repentance, which we're going to talk about later, and we correct it. Just like what it says in Jonah chapter 3. God said he saw their repentance through their deeds. He says, I saw their deeds that they repented. Repentance has to have deeds. We can't just believe and can't say with our mouth, oh, forgive me, and go on and think that we've repented. No. Repentance comes when God sees that your deeds has changed. Well, what deeds do we need to change? Murder, theft. We have the list. They're categorical. The 7 laws are categorical. Their behavior. They're actually what a friend of mine in Florida said it the best of all the other day. I loved it. Living by the Noahide laws is living a disciplined life. It's about discipline. That's all it is. It's about discipline, becoming a disciplined human being. And we have to start with understanding that these laws belong, every bit of this, what pertains to us is owned by Israel, not by us. We go to the custodians, just like it says in Isaiah, we go to Israel, like it says in Zechariah 8:23, we go to Israel and they teach us what's in the Torah, teaches us what to study, how to study it, where to study it, so that we can know what our part of this covenant with God is. Scotty, anything there? Any questions? I know I probably stirred up the hornet's nest there.
No, you know what? It wasn't as bad as what I thought it was going to be. So
It's just a hard concept to come by to think from a Western mentality like what we are, that the Hebrew scriptures belong to Israel and Israel alone. We do not have the right nor the permission to interpret and tell them what it says, or anybody what it says. We just don't have that. We don't have that right. It's not given to us.
You know, Terry, through my walk that the Creator has had me in to bring me to this point, there was a period of time when I had to listen to what other teachers in my faith said, because when I tried to apply my belief to the text of the Torah, it didn't fit real good. I'm trying to say this real delicate. And when I finally realized the issue is not the Torah not fitting me, it was me not fitting what the Torah said, and which changed my life completely. And I see others now, you know, and it's not their fault. You know, we bring up and we say, you know, we need to go back to this, and I always bring up conditioning. They've been conditioned to that, and so anyway, you want to talk about that? You want to throw something in on that? I'm just.
I know what you're saying. It just, what came to my mind this, over Thanksgiving, my wife and I started another puzzle, and you start out with this piece here, and you bring other pieces and you try to get them to fit. But the only one that's going to fit is the one that's made to go in that spot. And that's where we're at. We're in our lives. Technically, the Torah is the masterpiece that we're trying to fit all the other pieces into. And for a lot, that's just the wrong piece. It doesn't fit. But when we begin to learn the Torah and observe the Torah and to live the Torah according to the way the custodians tells us what it's supposed to be, then we're going to find that piece that fits into the masterpiece.
And you know what? if I can throw this in right here. You know, in my past walk, there was places, especially in the Torah and in the Tanakh, I had to overlook because I was trying to fit the wrong pieces in. But when the right pieces were put in place, it gave understanding to me of the text that I kept overlooking because I didn't understand it. Did you understand that?
Back to the analogy. You start out with this piece of the puzzle. You have some that looks like they fit. It snapped right in, but you can tell real quick the picture didn't form.
Yeah. Color was off.
Yeah. Or you had something that just, it didn't go. So you pull it apart and you find the piece that actually fit in. And when you put the two together, it begins to put the picture together. Now, Fred was talking about, so only the rabbis can teach, the Torah scholars can teach. They are the ones who teach us. But like Scotty and I, we are under the umbrella of our rabbis. And we go there, we teach, we ask. I mean, even Scotty today was asking questions about some things. But they have set us forth to teach other non-Jews because they teach us the Torah. This is what it says. This is what it means. But here's where it comes when it comes to those of us in the nations. Excuse me. They can't completely connect with us on this side because our laws, even though they're the same, they have to observe according to the covenant of Sinai. In ours, I mean, just give you an example, a quick example. You and I can thank the Creator from deep within our heart for a pepperoni pizza. We can give him thanks for that. They can't. We can thank them for our job that we have, and we may have to work Saturdays, but it was given to us. It's not a sin for us, but it is for them. So there's aspects of our lives that they can't really talk about. They can share up to a point. This is how the Torah is to be done. But now we've got to take it back into our communities and apply it within the culture that we are. See, that's the beauty of the 7 laws. It fits every culture, whether you're an American culture, or you're an Indian culture in India, or whether you're a French culture or a German culture. It doesn't matter what culture you are. These 7 commandments fit. But each culture is different. It's different in the way it dresses, the way it eats, maybe the way it forms its laws. And as we grow in these categorical commandments, it fits every culture. So the rabbis, they give people permission to go out and teach, ones they can trust. You have to build a trust. And just like what Rabbi Cohen and even Rabbi Herky says, there will become a time, and it's not now, but the time will come. That time when the plowshares will be and the pruning hooks will be turned into agricultural equipment, and the nations will not learn war anymore. There will be non-Jewish judges that have known and they've studied with the custodians enough that they can make decisions in their own nation. And they will be set forth by the custodians to go and do that. But they won't be on their own. They'll be underneath. They'll be underneath the custodians to make sure everything's done right. But yes, we do have the ones who have the permission of the rabbis to go out and teach. And I'll just say rabbis. Rabbi just means teachers, but They're the ones who have gone to the Jews and they have learned the Torah according to the tradition. There are some that are given the permission. Now go out and teach what we showed you. We don't go out and make up our own things. We don't make up and go, this is my opinion. This is what we got to do. And no, we stick with what we were taught. If we vary, we get ourselves in trouble. That's why we have so many religions around the world today. People thought, well, I think we need purple carpet in here, and we're going to be the purple carpet religion. Oh, no, 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 no. We need yellow drapes. We're the yellow drapes religion. No, we have to follow the Torah the way we were taught. And that even goes with Israel. They have to follow the Torah the way they're taught. As a matter of fact, they have the Creator put some things on them that are harder than it is for us. They can get in a lot more trouble for misbehaving their Torah than we do. We get in trouble, but not near as bad as they do, because they are the custodians, are held at a higher accountability. Go ahead, Scotty.
Nope, that's I think that's great. I think you've presented it wonderful. So anybody in the Zoom room have another question or anything to present? Fred, go ahead. I saw you unmuted.
I had a niece that kind of asked me a question about the descendants of Noah. And I think I presented her with the right answer, because I asked some other people about this, but everybody thinks that the offspring of Noah were committing sin when they come off the ark, because there was this 3 sons and wives, and they had children, in the Western mindset, they think that, that the children of the offspring, being cousins and nephews and stuff like that, that is still like an incestual kind of relationship. So when I did my research, and that's why I explained to her was, and then someone sent me a correction saying that the sin of incest wasn't given until Mount Sinai?
Right. That's the sin of incest and stuff.
But
wasn't given until Mount Sinai. The things, because man had grown to the point where it had to be done the way it was at the beginning. Noah and his family was starting humanity over.
Right. So, I was looking at the descendants of Noah just now, and looking at how many offspring that one son would have and the other son would have. So basically, if Japheth, he had 7 children. So those 7 children, I guess, and then they have the other 2 sons that have their children. So there's going to be maybe nephews and nieces or cousins marrying with another. So that's really not incest, because that's not an immediate family member. It's not a father and child or nothing like that. It's kind of like, so I don't think there's even a prohibition. That's not a prohibition at all, because it's not father and daughter or mother and son or, whatever it is. It's like nephews and nieces and cousins.
Yeah, well, aspects of human sexuality started out with certain levels,
like
but as man developed, and then the Torah came at Sinai, it brought in other restrictions on top of what was already there.
Mm-hmm.
Veronica brought up a good question here. I want to throw in before we lose too much time here. Terry, if rabbi means teacher, then technically a Noahide non-Jew teacher could be called rabbi, right? With a question mark.
No, we do not.
And explain the whys and wheres.
Okay, well, rabbi actually has a lot of meaning within. It's a cultural name. that's within Israel. It's cultural to them, not us. We can be called teachers. That's fine. But a rabbi has a lot more in-depth meaning within their culture. And to take that title is kind of like, and Veronica, I'm going to say something, and that I think you will understand because you're involved with the veterans. Okay, you're involved with the veterans. A Noahide that takes on the name of, or a Noahide that takes on, a non-Jew that takes on the name or the title, let me say the title, as rabbi, is stolen valor. Doesn't belong to them.
Do we have names for non-Jew?
Just like teachers, there's some it uses some Hebrew words that kind of mean similar to that. I don't know all the terms. One of them that I like, Rabbi Herky using his writing, the Noahide World Center out of Jerusalem, is like a Noahide judge would be. There would be something like a Noahide sage, meaning that they are well studied, well learned. You know, and I know a few people that are there's a few people I know I consider myself in that category. Not that I consider myself, no, not me. There's a couple of men that I personally know who I would consider a Noahide sage to me because they're very well studied. We're talking about decades of study underneath their teacher, their rabbi out of Israel. And to me, there's probably others out there, but to me, they're the only two I know personally, face to face, that would be considered a Noahide sage.
Yeah.
I'm just a teacher. That's me. That's what I've done most all my life, is teaching, kind of, you know, on a spiritual level. I'm not looking for any other. I don't even look for that title. God says, here's a door, go through it. And I got, you know, you got to go through it, or your life is miserable. And there have been other times I've told him to leave me alone. And he doesn't listen very well. But no, rabbi is not for the non-Jewish people. Those non-Jews that use the term, stolen valor. That term does not, it has a deeper meaning within its own culture. It's not in our culture. Teacher, professor, you know, whatever we have in the English language would be befitting, you know, depending on the level of study that you're at.
And you know, really humble. I'm going to say this just as the two people that you mentioned, there's two gentlemen, I know who you're talking about. They would never come up and claim a position, because
I looked at one. I looked a few months ago when we got to meet them, and you know, which I'd met them before, but we were in face-to-face relationship, just not online. I looked at the one and I said, "You're my elder." That's you know, perfectly fine English word there that could be used because of the level of study and knowledge. When as Noahide teachers that they are, when I have questions pertaining to this side of the fence, the non-Jewish side, I contact them. I've contacted them on issues of idolatry, you know, and discussion about certain things, because I was looking at some things and wanted to make sure that this particular thing wasn't idolatrous. And so I contacted them, we discussed it, and they walked me through it because they're decades ahead of me. And that's not a problem with that. That's why I consider them like a Noahide sage, because of the length of time that they've been in study. I mean, both of them been Noahides almost 30 years. You know when I'm talking about observance of the 7 laws for almost 30 years, somewhere in there.
Would you read what Amy Weller brought over from Daniel Gonzalez?
It says, hold on, let me put my other set of eyeballs on. There we go. That's what happens when you break that 50 mark. It says, I believe we're supposed to call, a teacher Mora, which I think means teacher as well. Isn't Mora
A male teacher.
Yeah, I know, but I think it's also, yeah. What I was talking about from the culture, I was thinking it's also from the culture of the word is left me I won't say the Talmudi, but it's anyhow. Just as Jews call teachers that are not technically rabbis, I could be wrong. That is one word. It's a Hebrew word. I kind of stay away. Me personally, I stay away from the Hebrew words because it comes from a Hebrew culture. I come from an English culture, and when I'm talking about as far as if you're going with a title, I wouldn't go with unless my rabbi gave that to me, then that would be a different story, but I don't choose it for myself. I don't choose anything for myself, to be honest with you.
I love the way Daniel asked that question, though, because it shows humbleness. Because he
Right.
said at the end, "I could be wrong." Though.
Yeah, because see, I know
That
the two gentlemen that I'm talking about, they called their teacher Maury, which is a form of that. They call him Maury.
Yeah, Dan just says we do not wish to be dogmatic on that.
Yeah.
Principle.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I have when I say personal, this is my own personal, in my personal walk, I don't choose to use Hebrew terms. I know some that do. There's one, it's a teacher. Can't remember the exact meaning, and I've seen it in the Hebrew. And I guess it's probably, if I had to choose a Hebrew word, be one like that, it would be, I think it's called nagid. And I think it has to do something with study and stuff like that. And you have also another Hebrew word is hacham, which is a student, which is one who is well studied, a wise. Chacham means a wise, one who's been wise because of their studies and knowledge.
Well, Terry, it's going on 9:22. Are we ready to make our descent tonight and leave everybody hanging so they'll come back next Wednesday?
We can. Is there any questions coming over the radio or?
No, I got a lot of thumbs up. Got a lot of scratchy heads. That's a new
yeah,
emoji
man.
they put on. A new emoji they put on. Scratchy head.
Hey, scratch your head, but don't go banging against the tree outside. Just scratch your head and,
Yeah.
And feel free, please feel free to contact us if you've got a question. Even if you say, I really don't know if I agree with such and such, don't be afraid to ask us and approach Scotty and I.
Right.
We'll be willing to share what we know, what we've been taught, and we'll help. We'll work with each other to get through it. We're all in this together. It's to be like, we're in a covenant with the Creator and with one another. It's a us. It's not a I and me. It's a us. It's a we.
Right.
And that's what I hope we're trying to develop here. So if you do disagree or think you have a disagreement or are not understanding, don't sit back in silence. Contact one of us, and we'll be glad to work things out.
Great. Listen, those of you that are listening by Power Faith Radio, you'll see on the app that's, if you're listening on your phone, on the little app on your phone, you see I added an email address to that. Like Terry said, feel free to email us any questions, and we'll attempt our best to get you an answer for that. And those of you that are listening on, you want me to go ahead and close out, Terry? I should have said that.
If you want to, I'm fine.
Okay. Those of you that are listening by Torah for the Nation's YouTube channel, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You can hit the share button and copy the link and take it on over to all your social media groups and share it. We would greatly appreciate it. Also, those of you that are listening by B'nai Noach Connection with Israel, you can do the same there. Join the group, like the videos, comment if you've got any questions there. Even on the YouTube, you can comment there and ask questions and share all that on your social media group. Please remember all the names that we mentioned tonight. We dedicate this class, this teaching tonight for them. And remember the blessed memories, remember the birthdays, remember the blessing touch that we just asked for those in the list. I also remember Sunday night, Rabbi Pesach. I call him Rabbi. I know I've gotten in trouble for this. I had somebody text me today, and I'm just going to tell everybody right now, he is my main teacher. Veronica brought up the rabbi, and some others bring up the rabbi. He's my main teacher. And so that's why I call him Rabbi out of respect. He is my teacher. So anyway, looking for him on Sunday night at 10 p.m. New York time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And he likes doing a little Q&A. So if you've got any questions you want to send my way, we'll try to format those and present those to him. And Terry, is that it?
I hope you don't mind me bringing this up.
I won't mind it a bit.
Because this has touched me this week. One of the people that Scotty brought up during Tzedakah time just passed away this week, this minister. And one of the things that touches the heart of the Creator is when we take care of the widow and the orphan and the needy. And if you know someone out there that's within those categories, give some tzedakah. Help them pay electric bill or buy them some groceries. Do something. Just give tzedakah. Do justice for them in their time of need. It's meant a lot to me this week. This situation that's happened that Scotty has shared with me. And I know that out there someone that's in that same situation or similar. Scotty, who was it? Was it a grandchild?
Yeah, it was a grandchild. Yeah.
So, someone lost a grandchild, which meant someone lost a child. Every one of us knows someone that's in those categories. Meet them in the time of their need. Help them out. Sometimes it ain't just handing them money. It's just, letting your presence be there. And in this world we're in today, and some people are going to hate what I'm going to say, but you know what? Sometimes someone might just need a hug, human contact. That's tzedakah. A hug is tzedakah. And so I just want to end with that.
All right, everybody. We trust we'll see you next Wednesday night. Thank you so much, Wendell and Amuela and Fred and Thomas and Richard and Veronica and Karen. I think Harold's there with Karen. They're always together. So we thank y'all so much for coming. We'll see you next Wednesday night, 8 p.m. New York time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, Baruch Hashem.
Bye-bye.